Well, hi everyone, Sean Humphreys here. Welcome to this edition of the Take Charge of Change podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we're going to talk about aging well. So what do I mean by that? Well, aging well for you, because these lessons apply to you, but also helping your parents, loved ones in your life to age well. And so these are really, really important conversations, and you'll enjoy this edition of the podcast. So what I'd like to do is talk about aging well, and I'm going to review a resource guide that I came across, which is a really, really helpful resource in this whole discussion around aging well. But let me just set some context for you. So my day job as a wealth planning professional has me sort of, move into the intersection point of people's lives where aging has an impact on finances, on independence, all kinds of issues. And I'm often drawn into those discussions because, when life changes, money changes. When money changes, life changes. That's very much a truism. And what's very interesting to me is very often family think that things are going pretty well for mom and dad, or mom or dad. And then all of a sudden, almost seemingly out of the blue, the wheels on the bus start falling off. And all of a sudden, the family's in crisis mode trying to support their aging loved ones. And what you tend to find is two things going on simultaneously. The reason it becomes a crisis point is that for your aging parents or loved ones, they're very concerned about disclosing a need for assistance because psychologically, we all want to maintain our independence. And the minute that we show signs of weakness or need help, we're concerned that the kids will sort of, come driving into their situation, that Calvary will come in to try to save the day and all of a sudden start dictating what needs to be done. So there's a real concern about that for aging parents. And even when the kids don't think they're doing it, it's very easy to cross that, line between trying to offer assistance, kind of coaching, just, being there as mom and dad need help, to becoming very prescriptive and directional for the parents. And then on the other side, you've got kids often who are not sure how to engage their parents on these important questions around, end of life planning, where they're going to live, maybe expressing concerns about cognitive decline or abilities, even getting ahead of those conversations to talk about what might happen in the future. Those are hard conversations. So we've got the two solitudes, right? And what that does is it keeps frank conversation from happening. So I came across a great guide. The guide was put together by Fidelity Investments. And they put this guide together to really help families engage on these important conversations. So what I'd like to do is just review the table of contents of this guide, maybe a couple of pages. And then I'll have a link on the show notes for this video. And if you just click the link, it'll take you to a page where you can just get the information. There's no requirement for signing up or giving us an email or anything like that. But I think that if you have a situation right now where you've got aging parents, even if there's not sort of crisis mode in place right now, in fact, ideally you don't want to be in crisis mode, but you've got aging parents and you haven't as a family engaged in conversations on the important issues, then I'd really recommend that you click the link to get this resource. So let's take a look at the resource. So what you see here is just the cover page for the PDF document if you decide that you want to download it. But it says Aging Well, Planning Conversation and Resource Guide, Building a Comprehensive Plan for You and Your Loved Ones. And it does act as a resource. There's some great helpful links and resources you can go to. But most importantly, there's a whole bunch of conversation starters that could be of great assistance to you when you're talking to an aging loved one in your family. So here's the table of contents. And when you look at the table of contents, there's obviously, some positioning information about how to use the guide and how you get the most out of it. But section 1 talks about the importance of developing a plan. So there's the financial piece. That's the piece that in my wealth planning practice we often get involved in because you have various scenarios that can happen. So there could be increased care costs, there could be home care costs. Sometimes you see a situation where in a couple, one can still stay in their current residence, but the other may need to move to assisted living or long-term care. And so there's financial implications around that. There's also a great section on health and wellness and how you can foster that in terms of conversation and planning. Aging in place, what are the various options? And study after study confirms that ideally you want to stay in your residence as long as possible to have supports to allow your loved one to do that. Almost every metric you look at in terms of health confirms that that's an ideal scenario. Housing and care options, and then end of life conversations and planning, and then how to work collaboratively with your team. And the team could be your GP, your physician, could be some specialists in different health areas, psychologists, social worker who acts as a resource person, and financial advisor. Now, Section 2 is a really, really helpful piece of this document. And what Section 2 does is it really gets into the important conversations, some conversation starters, some basic outlines of information that will help you plan in each of these functional areas. Now, what I'll do is I'll take you through an example of one of the worksheets here. Let's see if we can get it. And so the worksheet I'll take you to is on memory as an example. So the introduction to this page says it's normal to become more forgetful as we age, but how much is too much? Great question. How can you tell whether your loved one's tip of the tongue moments are a normal age-related change versus something that's more serious for them? So when you look at the various categories, we've got two columns there, age-related change and then possible issues. So let's just take a look at the second one here. So challenges in planning and problem solving. Well, it's age-related, trouble occasionally balancing a checkbook as an example. It's possibly an issue, though, if you have trouble keeping track of monthly bills. Confusion with time or place, as an example. Well, getting confused about the day of the week and then remembering later, that's perfectly normal, but getting confused about where you are and how you got there, that's a bit more of an issue. New problems with words and speaking or in writing. Well, having a tip of the tongue moment, that's normal. But having trouble to joining or following in a conversation is not necessarily normal. So this is an example of a great document that is in this particular handout. So again, if you have loved ones and you want to get proactive around really important questions, and also it takes you into discussions on powers of attorney, living wills, the importance of estate planning, then I encourage you to, again, go to the link at this document. Now, at Take Charge of Change, as we work with organizations, we're really passionate about helping staff to be resilient professionally and personally. And part of that is delivering training and workshops that help your staff to get ahead of these issues. And so one of the issues that can really create disengagement or stress or problems for your staff is dealing with aging parents. So again, if you're concerned about building professional and personal resilience in your teams, reach out to us. We'd love to start a conversation about how we can craft programs that really hit those issues that I think are paramount for your team right now to reduce stress and to improve professional effectiveness. You take care. Be resilient.